Morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone around the world. Thank you for joining. Today, especially in Malaysia, tonight is our fourth session from Sparks webinar series. So before we start, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Safina. So I will be your host for today, about 1 hour. And together with me, we have VG as our main speaker. And also we have Harshit Paul, who will be doing some product walkthrough towards the end of the session. So for the benefit of others who just joined, so let me brief a little bit who is Synapse QA. So basically, we are here as a community who promotes learning, sharing, and growing together. And one of our mission and vision is to be a community-driven platform that connects and foster talented mind, and allow you to create an empire that expands beyond the page and transform contents more powerful by ensuring it is openly available by redefining the creativity that you have. Okay, right. And then next, is as you know that Synapse QA is a free platform, so feel free to join us whenever you see our page in LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or even Telegram. Okay, and then this is the new community. We just launched like last year March, but we already have like over 30 talented people on board. We are also the accountability partner for content creation, so that is our main focus. And the reason why we are here is because we are redefining creativity with unique ways of knowledge sharing. Okay, and because we are new, that does not mean we don't have experience. So what we have done so far is that we have hosted 2 global events, one meetup, few parallel series, teller of tales, blogcast, study notes, and many more. Okay, and we have also partnered with other communities for 5 global testing conferences. Okay, so let's go to Super Reads and Sparks. So just to let you know that our submission for Super Reads has ended yesterday and early morning in Malaysia time. And what does Super Reads and Sparks do? Super Reads is basically is a write-a-thon competition which runs globally. So we call it Global Write-a-thon. And Sparks is our webinar anthologies where we collect and gather speakers, leaders, and experts around the world to share their knowledge on diverse topics. The idea is to boost your mind in order for you to learn better with different ways of learning experience. Right, next. So this is the Super Read timeline. So this is important for you to know, especially those who participated in Super Reads. So on the 12th of December 2021, we'll be revealing Super Reads launch with 12 shortlisted articles. So please stay tuned to see whether your articles made it to the 12 shortlisted. And by the 1st of January 2022, which is just next year, like less than 30 days, we will announce the winner and there will be a grand prize ceremony. All right. So who do we have today for this Sparks 4 session? So for today's topic, it will be BDD, which stands for Behavioral Driven Development. So this is BDD Test Traceability Report Generator by VG Matawat. Okay. Um, so just a bit of introduction about VG. Okay, although some of you maybe just come back from work, especially like me, for instance. So I still want to make sure that everyone is excited with tonight's session, and for that I would like to brief you a little bit about VG, who is our speaker for today. So VG is basically someone who is very dynamic and energetic QA. He has over 10 years of experience in test automation, and because of that she's very keen on learning the tips and tricks and the trend, especially in the test automation tools. And for that she has actually worked with various tools. Maybe I can just drop some names here. She has experience working with Java, Ruby, Selenium, BDD, as well as Cypress. All right, and I will pass the mic to VG first because I'm so excited to learn about today's topic. So over to you, VG.
Thank you, Safina, for the wonderful welcome. And thank you all for joining this session. So, give me a second to share my screen. Hope you guys are seeing the screen now.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So, hello everyone. So, this is Vijay Madhavan. I'm working as a test automation consultant in Palo Alto, Singapore. And I have like around 14 plus years of experience in test automation. So, actually, I love my profession being a test automation consultant. So, the reason is I feel like lot of effort we put on manual testing is being saved due to lot of tools and technologies we are developing now. So, I'm proud to be a test automation consultant and in the community as well, and you can find me in the LinkedIn profile given here. I'm happy to connect with you all like in any upcoming conversations about this utility or any test automation related queries. We can have a healthy conversation there. So let's move into today's topic. So today's topic is BDD Requirement Coverage Report Generator. So what is it? So it is an utility which helps you to give a test coverage data from your automation toolset. So we are having lot of automation tools available, so that giving some reports which is been like what is the pass percentage, fail percentage, but what is the information missing is how much of your requirement is covered. So that is the core logic behind this utility. So let's see the agenda for today's session. Okay, so we are going to see about the high level design of this utility and how can we use this to generate the coverage report, and what is the minimal prerequisite needed to generate this report. And also we are going to see about the background and motivation, because like lot of tools are available in the market, and why do we need to use this particularly this utility to generate the coverage data. So we are going to see some aspect of it. And also the base for everything is you need to understand like what is requirement coverage and how important it is to measure it and analyze the metric for our test automation purpose. So in next 30 minutes we will be discussing on these areas. I hope like the questions can be addressed at the end of the session. Please post your questions in the Q&A, and we can discuss at the end of our webinar. And okay, so before moving the section one, I would like to hear your opinion on this picture. Please observe this picture for a few seconds, and whatever comes in your mind, like any questions or thoughts, I would like to see that in the chat box. So please post your thoughts in chat box. I'll just wait for a few seconds to see that. I think you need to see the picture as well. I'll put here. Safina, do you see any chat?
Yeah, at the moment not yet. Yeah. So guys, if you can interpret these arts in your own words, what will it be? Maybe you can give some answers on the chat so that we can see how you think, and then from there VG will be able to guide you through the understanding of this particular instruction. Missed mouse. Yeah, that's nice. Do you miss the mouse? Yeah, that's a good try. Not covering the ceiling, that there is a mouse. Good try. Okay, I can't see the ceiling as well.
Yeah, so actually, that is a common thought, right? So when we think in terms of cat perspective, so they look the house entirely, and for them, like there are no mice. But if you see at the roof, there is a mouse. So this is what happening in our project also. Like we know like what is the goal of our project. It's a big picture of requirements. What we usually do is we focus on only certain things and write more and more tests on certain area, leave the other areas. So for an example, I can say like you are having like hundreds of tests in your automation pack. So we work hard to make all the 100 test cases passing and get the 100% pass per coverage. But we don't care about whether this 100 test cases is enough to cover all the requirements mentioned in the requirements document or something. So that is what the baseline of the idea behind this utility. So with this understanding, I just want to jump into the first section of this webinar. So that is requirement coverage. So we are going to see about what is requirement coverage, and why we need this as another metric, because lot of metrics available now, and how can we measure the requirement coverage. So these are the topics that will come under this section 1. So requirement test coverage is a metric which will measure like how much of your requirements are being covered by your automation test. So it is like a kind of amount of test we perform on a requirements basis. So this information will help you to give a quantitative number or quantitative percentage of a requirement coverage. So that is what the definition of requirement test coverage is all about, and it helps to deliver a quality software. So if you ask anyone what is a quality software, the answer will be any software which will meet all the requirements is a quality software. So in that case, like how do we ensure we met all the requirements? So the only way to do is we have to test it. So if we have any requirements which doesn't have any test, then it doesn't meet the quality and we are compromising on it. So this metric is help you to focus on the overall picture and see like are we in online with the quality. So that is what the metric is going to do. And we can think in another perspective. So if you think about test automation or software testing, it is goal is to make the product quality better and better, right? So this test coverage metric is going to make your automated test quality enough. We are going to check whether the test what we have is enough, or whether it's having enough quality, and whether do we have any test which doesn't carry about any requirements. So that is the intention of making this test coverage and analyzing it. So that is the benefit of using this metric. So moving on to next slide. So when we talk about test coverage, so I assume like people may misconceptualize these two terms like code coverage and test coverage. So because I have seen like many development teams and testing team frequently used to misinterchange this word. So that's why I thought of put one slide to differentiate this. So that's make us to clear like what we are trying to achieve. So in terms of code coverage, so it is like the number of lines of development code which is being exercised by test. So that is what the code coverage do. But in terms of test coverage, we all speak about requirements. Like it can be a features or user stories or even a list of requirements in Excel file. So that is the test coverage test. And for code coverage, we mostly rely on unit test. So we are having many tools like Jekako or what are the tools which can be available in the market. We can integrate them with the development code, and we will run the unit test, and we will get some reports that will give you like information like statement coverage or branch coverage. So that is all about code coverage. But in test coverage, it is not only limited to unit test. You can do use any type of test like functional test or API test or performance test, and you have to analyze this test against the requirements. So that is what test coverage does, and that's why we are calling this code coverage is a white box testing, and test coverage falls under the black box testing. So I hope I made clear like the test coverage is not same as code coverage. So let's go into the benefits of it. So now we know like what is the metric is going to give. So it is going to give a percentage. That percentage means these many number of requirements you have covered with your automation test. So with this number, what we are trying to achieve. So the first thing is we are trying to achieve the traceability pattern. So we are going to know like which requirement has test and which requirement is not having test. So with this traceability, we can plan our sprints or release cycles. Like how do we make sure like these requirements to be covered in next testing life cycle, or those planning can happen, and we can have some action items based on the metric what we are going to get from this report. And other important aspect in terms of test automation is we can identify the gap. So let's say you are getting a percentage of 40% coverage. It means that you are still having 60% of your requirements that doesn't even have a single test case. So it is a critical risk we have to address. So we can add more tests to that requirements, and we can get improve our test coverage. So that is what the second point states. And third one is this is kind of a maintenance activity. So when we do this requirement coverage, we will come to know like what is the mapping of the requirements and test. So if we have some test that doesn't have any requirement map, it means that the requirement might be descoped or even deleted, or the requirement might be changed. So there is it with this orphan test, it doesn't add any value to test automation or to the product quality. So the better thing is we have to remove these orphan test cases and keep our automation pack healthy. So that helps us to save a lot of time while we do our maintenance during the test automation framework, all this stuff. And last but not the least one is preventing defect leakage. So if you think about like 10 years back, the QA goal should be identify the defects, but now it's not only identify the defects, we have to prevent the defects. So how can we do it? So if you run this utility against your project scope, and you will come to know like what are the requirements which is not even tested. You add few tests so that like it prevents the defects which can be identified in the later stage. So these are the benefits of finding the test coverage metric. And now let's see the next one. So as we now know like what is this metric is about and what are the benefits we have, but I just want to highlight a quote here. So since it talks about the percentage, it doesn't seem to be like we always need to get 100%, because that is something which is very challenging to achieve in the real world. But what is the goal is actually with the metrics we have to analyze and we have to find out what are the areas which is missing testing. And with the help of product owner and the quality team, we can analyze whether it's a priority feature, and we can keep adding our test. So the goal is not always 100%. The goal is to identify the state where are we and improve our state to a next one. So that is what I want to highlight here. Okay. Now we are into the section two of today's webinar. So problem statement and solution. So we have lot of automation tools and frameworks available. So we can have a question like why can't we measure this requirement as part of any tool? So as for my understanding, there are only few limited paid tools which can give some level of information, but the information what I'm going to show in the report is not currently available in any of the test automation built-in reports. So that's why I'm planning to show this in the next slide. So what are the challenges? First, list down the challenges. So first one is when we talk about code coverage, so it is like well used one, and we have a lot of tools available in the market. But in terms of test coverage, there is only few, very few limited tools available. So that's the first challenge I want to address. The next thing, if we decided to do this test coverage by manual effort, let's say and we are taking the list of Jira issues, and we are having the test results. If you want to try to map manually and identify the gap, it consumes lot of effort, and it's going to add burden again to the automation people. So going manual is not a good option anymore. So that's what the second challenge is about. And third one is the existing test automation report. So what is the information we see in test automation report is more like how many number of test cases is passing and how many of them is failing. Even we will get the screenshots and execution time. It's all good to know or to debug your defects and everything, but it doesn't give any information about the traceability or the coverage. So these are the core challenges I'm planning to address. And based on these challenges, my solution will be, so we have to get a report. It can be in any format. So we have to get the report that should give information about like how much more of my requirements is fully covered, and how much of my requirements is partially covered, and how much of my requirements is not at all covered. So these are the three levels of segregation I want to put in for all the requirements. So the fully covered, it means we have a requirement and all the acceptance criteria given in the requirements is automated. So that comes into the category of fully covered. And the second is about partially covered, like few of the acceptance is covered by automation shoot and remaining is not. So that is partially covered. And not at all covered is the critical one we have to identify. There are no automated tests for the particular requirement. So these are the levels of information I would expect from the requirement coverage report. Okay, so now let's walk into the solution. Like I'm going to just give a brief about like high level design. So actually, to use this utility, it doesn't require to know like how it's been implemented, but just to give an idea, I'm just having this section here. So first, let's see like what are the prerequisites we need to make this utility running for your project. So first thing, as we are talking about the mapping, the requirements and the tests, you need to have some sort of requirement source. Many of our team was following Jira. Some of them may be following Azure DevOps. So in the initial version of this utility, we are supporting Jira. So that's what we are going to see in the demo section as well. So we need to have a requirement source. That's one thing. And second is we have to follow any automation framework which supports BDD. So here I'm taking Cucumber. You can use any tool like Selenium or Karate or JBehave. So what are the tools which supports BDD that can be well enough, and you can generate the test results from it, and you can feed it to this traceability generator utility. And third is very important. So as our core is to map the requirements to the test, we have to do that in our test. So it is not a very complex logic or something. If you're following BDD, you must have known about tagging. So what you can do, on each scenario level you can tag the requirement ID or the ACs. So when that is the only minimal thing we have to do it to generate this report. So this is a high level. So what are the components or we need it from the project perspective. Now let's move on to the high level design of it. So actually the centerpiece of this one, this is the traceability generated code. So this will help us to generate the data. So but what is we get at the end is here. But let me tell you the flow, like how it works. So we are having requirement source in Jira. Currently we have taken Jira for this release. So what we need from you is what is your project in Jira, and what is your API key just to access or to fetch the list of requirements. And we need to know the scope. Like few of our teams will work on sprint wise, few of us will work on release wise, right? So we will be having the list of requirements. You can just share those requirements as a format JQL, Jira query language. So these three information we need it from in terms of requirement perspective. And when it's come to automation results, as you follow BDD, so when you come to Cucumber, you always looking for HTML report, but there is an option to generate JSON as well. It's a simple plugin configuration. Once you enable it, you will get a Cucumber report JSON. So that file is required for this traceability generator to work. So what this traceability generator will do, it will just analyze and it will prepare the coverage data, and the data will be persisted to a database. Currently, I'm using MySQL, and the same data will be published to a Grafana dashboard. That's going to be a real-time dashboard. So whenever your test run, it will fetch and it will execute, and you will see the coverage report in the Grafana dashboard. So this is the high-level design of the utility. Now we are in the final section of it. Like we are going to see like how this utility is going to work. So I'm going to show you a demo setup, like what is the minimal setup needed and how the actual coverage report looks like. Okay, so when it comes to Jira, so usually this is the structure we follow. We will be having each stories, and the description what you see here, the AC 1, 2, 3 or the acceptance criteria. So there is no restriction that you have to use this format. You can use any format, even scenario 1, scenario 2, whatever it is, because in the it is configurable. So we can mention like what is the way we can identify or segregate the acceptance criteria. So this will help you to give the coverage very detailed in terms of acceptance level itself. So that is what this AZ 1 and 2 3 refers. Now this is which we discussed already. So this is usually your Cucumber scenario files looks like. So when you write your scenarios, the thing is you have to add tags. This is going to be my requirement ID, and this is like which part of my requirement or which is the acceptance criteria this scenario is going to cover. So these two tags is the only thing you will add in your automation path to make this utility works. I hope this is very simple to add. And other thing is a configuration file. So this we I explained in the high level design itself. We need to know what is your project key and what is your Jira host and your username and API key. To API key is something which can be easily generated from Jira settings. So that is very helpful to access your Jira through APIs, and it can fetch the list of issues. And the Jira JQL is something which defines the scope, like what is the scope of requirements I need to map and what is the scope of requirements I need to compare. So that is what this Jira JQL is going to do. And these two fields are related with acceptance criteria, like how can I identify your acceptance criteria. So this is what I shown. I'm following this naming convention like AC, and the identifier will like AC123. So that's what these two fields do. And the last field is for testing purpose. So we need to have the test report or the result JSON from Cucumber, and you need to place it in somewhere in your location, and you have to provide the file path for the JSON file. Now so once you have this, after you run your utility, you will see the report, which is like a Grafana dashboard. Now I'll walk you through the Grafana dashboard. So I'll just So if you see the screen, so this is my Grafana dashboard for the sample Jira setup I have shown now. So it has three widgets. The first, this part is like the coverage summary. So that will give you the overall picture, like how much of your requirements is fully covered and how much is partially covered and how much is not covered. So based on this, you can come to know like what is your overall status of your project. Even some of the business holders and product team, they will be very much interested in to know this picture, because whenever you send some your automation reports, right, they don't care about like pass percentage, fail percentage. For them, like are we on track. So this particular piece will help them to answer the question. And you can say like, okay, only these much of coverage we have, and we are working on it to make more coverage. So that's how your action plan will be. And in terms of execution summary, so you can see this is like which will be read from the test results. You can see like for each requirement how many test scenarios you had, how many of them passed and how many is not run. So this is how the execution summary helps. And this is like a very detailed one, because here we are saying like this many partially covered scenarios are there. And when you look into the each requirement id, you can see like very detailed AC level details. Like for this ONL1, this is the Jira requirement id, it has three acceptance criteria like 1 2 3, and out of them two is covered and this is not covered. So it means that it doesn't have any scenario at all in your automation pack. So this is how the coverage matrix works. And you can do you can export this as an Excel file, and you can do searching and filtering, like find out like what are the things not covered, and you can add it to your backlog. So all this stuff can be accessed, and it is like Grafana features. All the features can be accessed as the Grafana one. So this is all about the report. So now I just want to switch here. Okay, so before I close my topic today, I just want to give a closing thoughts now. So, as we are working in Agile world, so everyone is looking for quality, but with the limited time. So, the best way to do this is to analyze the code quality. So, what we can do is we can generate as much as metrics we can do, and based on that, you can analyze and you can find out like what is the test coverage of it. And as I mentioned before, this is not the way to get 100%. This is a way to analyze where we stand now, and based on the new test cases you add, you will get a better coverage. You can have some benchmark to reach a better coverage for your project. And if you don't have any tools like this, then measuring test coverage is a tedious one, because test will be in separate repository, and the requirements will be maintained differently, like in Jira or in Excel. So merging these two will be a complex one if we don't follow any tools or any technology. And again, I'm stressing it, code coverage is not anymore same as requirement coverage. So that's what I want to highlight as a closing summary. And at the end, so what is next? So we are planning to from Palo IT, we are planning to release this as an open source tool in few weeks. So I want all of you to monitor us, and we are going to be a proper launch for this utility. And once it's done, please use and share your feedback. So that's all, and thank you all for this session. I hope I will meet you in Q&A session now.
All right. Thank you very much, VG. I was
Yeah.
hooked to the slides. There's a lot of content that I'm sure that I need to do a revision after this Right. Okay, let me check on the Q&A. There's no Q&A yet at the moment, but keep it coming because we have a few people with us tonight live listening to your topics. So maybe I can, oh, good. Now we have one question. Yeah, the question comes from Bharat. Okay, so the question is, this report looks amazing. Is there any reference to follow and implement it?
Yeah, thank you, Bharat, for the comment. So actually, the utility I told you, right? So it is in the release process. So we will be releasing in a Docker version of it, and once it is available as an open source, you can just build it. And the only thing is, as I mentioned, you have to change the configuration file for your project settings, and you can run this as a Docker. Then that will bring the dashboard for you.
All
So
right. Yeah, I'm actually interested to ask this question because I have not used Grafana before. So regardless of working experience, in terms of learning curve, assuming someone has already started testing for 3 to 5 years, for example,
hmm.
so for them not to be afraid to learn new tools, what would be your advice to them, and how would you rate the difficulty of using the tools that you just mentioned? So if someone who is above 5 years of experience, what would be the difficulty rate level for them to absorb new tools for them to learn?
Okay, so actually, in terms of the using this tool, right? So it's like only two commands you can make this working. So because we are planning to release this as a Docker, so if you have Docker installed in your machine, you have to pull this Docker image, and once you run this, then you will see this dashboard. So using this tool will be very easy one. But in terms of as this tool needs the test automation report as well, so for that you need to have some Selenium framework already set up, and you will be having that's we are doing now. Anyway, that results file should be feeded into this tool. So that's the only requirement for this tool to be used.
All right, right. I'm still going to hold the mic, so I have another question to ask. So you mentioned that why we have this concept like BDD for test report generator in place. One of the reason is to prevent defect leakage. So based on your experience implementing this mechanism, in terms of percentage, how many percent of defect leakages that you have actually been able to reduce? Maybe before using this tool, the defect leakages in production is about maybe 30%. So, but that's too big, yeah. But
Yeah.
after implementing the tools, what is the percentage that you think can you manage to reduce?
Okay. So actually, the main reason for me to build this utility, right? So when we have this product team, so they will be usually asking the question like, it's not like all the scenarios can be automated. So we will be lifting over with few scenarios that is not feasible for automation. So if the product team comes to you and ask like, okay, we are okay, like you can't do 100% automation. So please list us like what are the stories which needs to be done manually. So in that aspect, right, so spending a lot of hours on it to get that data is time consuming. So that's what this utility helps me to do. So whenever they ask, I will give you, okay, this many is not covered, so because of that so and so reason, so you can do proceed with manual testing. So that's one way of benefit I see in terms of using this tool. And in terms of defect leakage, so at least at minimal level, we can add some high level of test to make sure at least almost all the requirements is touched by automation suite. So that helps us to minimize your defects at least by even 50% of it. Because like if you do one or two tests on each feature, that makes sure end to end, so that we can catch like minimal maximum defects it can come into the production phase or something. So that is the other benefit of it.
Right, right. Okay, I'm almost at the end of your session.
Yeah.
Don't leave the session yet. Yeah. So what is your hope to others who is actually listening to this session tonight, and maybe later on when we had it on replay over YouTube? What will be your hope for them? How would you feel that you can inspire them to pick up this new knowledge that you have shared tonight?
Okay. So actually, we are from a test automation side, right? So we are working hard to make the test automation pack running and for a long time. And the results what we get is lot consumed by the product owners as it is, because like whenever you send some reports, they don't care about it all. But only when there is a defect and they will come back. That's the usual culture. And what we can do is like you can give the report which is like a readable, and they can understand, okay, this is where we stands on. So giving a report in terms of not only the technical terms, giving in a readable format is good enough, and that's what this utility is going to do for you. So once it released to as an open source, please start using it and share your comments, and we can improve it and add more and more support for it. So
Thank you very much. I love it. I love it so much. All right. So that's all from VG on tonight's session. So I'll move on to the next product walkthrough by Hashid Paul. So a brief about Hashid. So just to let you know that Hashid has been how do I say product marketer, but before that he was a developer. I don't want to reveal more about him, but because I want to hear it live from him, what is his background and what he's going to demo to us from Lambda test perspective. Go ahead, Hashid.
Thanks, Afina, for having me here. And as you mentioned, yes. So I currently I'm designated as product and growth manager at Lambda Test. But prior joining to Lambda Test, I was working as a Salesforce developer in Wipro Technology. So back then, I worked there for around, I guess, a couple years, and then I realized maybe I was not best suited for coding. That was just my personal opinion, and I thought maybe it's time for me to make a transitional switch in my career path, and marketing seemed like a good option. And here I am learning and growing ever since. I've been a part of this team. So I've been a part of Lambda Test almost from the very beginning of the product side of things, ever since we developed the product. And I'm just going to take a couple minutes of everybody's time here just to showcase as to everything that you can do with Lambda Test. So I'll quickly share my screen in that case, and let me know if that becomes visible. Yeah,
All right, I can see it.
cool. So as we talked about, we're all QA folks here. We're all fans of BDD frameworks, and plugging them into Selenium, as we mentioned, in order to make sure that the test is automation testing is taking place. But where does Lambda test come into place is that when you're configuring these automation tests, you need an execution platform, for example, where you can have a Selenium grid installed right in your machine. But the challenge with that, that would be it would only include the browsers that you have on your machine, and you cannot have dozens of browsers. However, you would need to test your application, a web app, or your website across multiple browsers, simply because your customers can visit you from pretty much anything that they have with them, right? And it can be very challenging at times and not feasible at all. For example, I'm using a Windows machine here, and if I would want to test my website on a Safari browser, that would not be possible for me. And similarly, if I would have a Mac machine on me, it would not be feasible for me to test on IE. And to have that entire ecosystem developed in house, it will take a lot of time. It usually takes a lot of toll from the DevOps teams, or you need somebody who's managing all of these systems in house. And there's a lot of expenditure that comes into the place in buying all the devices and everything. So what's the go-to method to test in a smarter manner? That's where we come in. We provide a cross-browser testing cloud, where we have around 3,000 plus browsers combinations with us, where you can come up and test your website and web applications online. So all you have to do is hop on board and just inform which browser you want to run through your test automation script, and our machines will take it from there and will give you the respectable browser and OS combination. uh, what we have at Lambda Test currently is we support Selenium testing. So pretty much any framework that you have and is compatible with Selenium, you can run those scripts with Lambda Test as well, uh, including the BDD add-ons as well. So Cucumber as well. We have detailed support documents, and we also have plugins for some of these BDD frameworks. You can go ahead and check our support portal for that. There is also we also support Cypress testing for that. example, and there are other JavaScript test frameworks that are supported too. Apart from automation testing, we also have live testing where you actually go ahead and interact with the devices in real time, and pretty much it's the manual testing side of things. We also allow you to capture screenshots across multiple browsers at the same time, full page screenshots, so you can compare how your website is looking on consistent basis. That comes a part of your screenshot testing. And we have a very handy utility for front end developers and QAs, uh, which we call as LT browser. And what that does is it allows you to build responsive web apps on the go. You can compare how your website is looking on multiple mobile viewports and resolutions in a side by side view. You can debug and do lots of you can do performance analysis and lots of other utilities hidden inside LT browser. So that is it. You can go ahead and look into the platform, sign up by all means. We give 100 minutes of automation testing free to everyone. Just one more minute. This is how the platform would look like once you sign up in the automation side, and this is how the logs usually run through. There are some add-on utilities here. Some advantages that I would want to highlight with Lambda test is when you run a test across through your script across our cloud, every test gets recorded here, so you can pretty much go ahead and see what is happening inside that test, and you can leverage this video as a proof when you're presenting that when you're logging a Jira ticket or something like that. Right? We have a variety of detailed logs which can help you debug anything that you might come across, right? So if there's anything that you get stuck at, you can use these logs to make sure that these are being handled. That is it for now. I will be taking a dedicated demo session. I can talk all and all about about our product here, but we do have an upcoming session on 5th where I'll be deep diving into Lambda test dashboard and utility, and we'll be showcasing how we can make the most out of the platform. So make sure you tune into that session as well. And thank you so much. That was it from my end, Safina.
Thank you. That was short and sweet. Yeah. So there will be another session on the 5th of December, right? As you mentioned. So yeah,
Yep.
I make sure that you will see my face one more time.
I would love to be on another show with you. Yeah.
All right, all right. Thanks, Harshit. Okay, and that is the wrap up for our presentation from VG and Harshit. So, before we close this session, so I would like to dedicate some of our sponsors, okay? Because without them, we won't be able to have this session running smoothly. And for that, I would like to applaud Applitools, SLQ Lambda Test, which is now I know Lambda Test is Harshit, and then we have Test Sigma, MOOC Test, and also Test Project, right? And if you would like to know more about us, and you can always contact us at SuperReads Alliance synapse-qa.com, or you can follow us on social media as mentioned earlier in the session, Synapse, through our Instagram, Telegram, Facebook, and also the first one is LinkedIn, Telegram, Facebook, and also Instagram. And again, just a reminder that stay tuned. We have few more sessions on Sparks webinar series, and we'll be doing the announcement on the Write-a-thon winner on the 1st of January 2022. Yep, that's all from us. And thank you, VG and Harshit, one more time. We'll see you in the next Spark series. Bye.
Looking forward to that. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.